Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Ashley Talley. Today we're taking a deep dive into a really sad story that happened around New Year's weekend. With us is WRAL reporter Chelsea Donovan. Chelsea, tell us what happened Friday.
Yeah, this was a sad story that happened Friday in the middle of the day around 11 a.m. Cary police responded to an area about the 500 block of Walnut Street to a pedestrian that had been struck by a vehicle. Upon their investigation, they noted that there was a 6-year-old girl that was critically injured by a car that they noted was driving recklessly and over the speed limit. Subsequently, that little girl was taken to the hospital where she later died, and a Cary man was actually charged with a number of charges, five actually, including some serious charges of involuntary manslaughter and misdemeanor death by motor vehicle.
How fast was he going?
The posted speed limit there is 30. That's in the municipal area of Cary. And according to a search warrant I just obtained, they noted that he was going at least 15 miles per hour over the speed limit.
So at least 45. What do we know about this little girl?
Yeah, so the little girl, 6-year-old Jocelyn Perez Hernandez, this happened right in her front lawn, which is just a tragedy in itself. She was just playing like kids do right at the top of her lawn that kind of abuts to a sidewalk. And then Walnut Street sits in front of that. She was in pre-K at an elementary school nearby. Obviously, they had just celebrated the Christmas holiday. And, tragically, as you mentioned, they're entering a new year with just a fresh, tough loss for the family and really the Cary community as a whole.
I know when our reporter was out there Friday, she talked to a neighbor who said that the little girl played outside all the time, and like she was known to, the neighbors all knew her from playing outside. Do we know were her parents or a babysitter or anything with her at the time outside?
So she was playing outside, as you mentioned, as children do. That neighbor kind of affirmed what we spoke to the family today. He was actually putting out a memorial, and the family was outside, just attending to daily tasks when they just heard a scream. And they noted that the car hit the little girl, and she was just sort of laying lifeless in the lawn. And the family who spoke Spanish sort of basically told us that she was laying there, and the mom picked her up and was holding her as they called 911 and worked to get her to the hospital. And of course, we all know that for a short period of time, she was in grave condition before she did pass away that day.
Oh, that is so sad for that family. Since the suspect has been charged, what do we know about him? Who is he?
He has no criminal record from what I can gather. 50-year-old Andrew Everett of Cary. He was, like I said, charged with a number of things, but he does have a couple felony charges on there, which is important to note. He's currently sitting in the Wake County Jail under a fairly low bond, $26,000. He saw a judge this morning. They've appointed him a capital defender. What's interesting is what happened in terms of getting. What's interesting is that I obtained a search warrant that notes some interaction that he had with Cary police that talks a little bit about his lack of remorse at the scene, and he sort of wanted to hurry the investigation.
That's so interesting. I want to get into the details of that right after the break. Welcome back. Chelsea Donovan is telling us about the sad story of a little 6-year-old girl who lost her life in Cary Friday morning. You obtained these search warrants, and they really go into some interesting detail about how the suspect interacted with police and things he was saying at the scene.
Right. So Cary police filed this search warrant that gives a little bit more of a narrative as to what happened that afternoon when they caught up with him in the scene. And their investigation sort of focused on this blue Honda Fit that he was driving. And of course, when an investigation unfolds, they start questioning him. And immediately Cary police note, and this is sort of a direct quote from them, note that he said, this is an investigation that should only take 5 minutes. She was playing out in the yard, and she jumped out in front of me, and that's when I hit her. And there's one bit here that's a little bit uncomfortable to hear, where Everett told police that it wasn't his fault, and the girl jumped out in front of her, and then he notes that he calls her a retard. And this again is a direct quote from the search warrant, and that you can kind of sense that he is using derogatory language about her. So that kind of
We do know
reveals a
that
little.
Jocelyn had special needs, right?
I believe
According to the
so.
family.
Yes, yes, she did. Her family, like I said, spoke Spanish, so we weren't really able to glean a lot of details about young Jocelyn, but um, just in that search warrant, learning a little bit more about Everett's interaction with police. What we should note too is that they did note that there was some drug paraphernalia in the car. He wasn't charged with any of that, but they just note that perhaps that could have been a factor in this situation.
Do we know what kind of drug paraphernalia? Do we expect marijuana since he was not charged for it?
Rolling papers.
Okay. Um, the scene was a, it was a, the scene was active a really long time on Friday. Somebody in the newsroom said, I just have a bad feeling that this is going to be fatal because police were just out there for so long. And we just saw the one car there, them they're looking into it and everything. Um, did you have you spoken with any neighbors or anybody to talk about whether they see speeding in this area?
So interesting you asked that. We kind of tried to ask the family that. They said it's relatively safe. I actually checked in with Cary police that said that this is an area that they haven't done any traffic studies on for speeding or fatalities or anything like that. So that was a question we all had too, but it looked like that area is generally pretty safe. And I think a part of that too is because there's sidewalks there, so they haven't had a lot of pedestrian fatalities in that area. And it's important to know that she was in her yard. So it's not like she didn't dart out into the road. She wasn't crossing the street to go to the park. She was simply playing in her yard when that car came and allegedly struck her there.
Did he strike her? Like, she was not in the road, she was in like her own grass?
Correct.
Oh gosh, I didn't realize that. Um, we've heard for some people we work with who live in Cary that said, "Oh, there's some really bad spots," but they said this is not one of them. So this really does seem to be a just a horrible, horrible accident with somebody potentially going too fast.
Exactly. I think it is. It's a tragedy all around.
It really is. Do we know what punishment that the suspect could face if he's found guilty? No. Okay.
I think he's got several court dates that need to play out, in a probable cause hearing and likely a bond hearing before a trial or a subsequent plea deal would be come to fruition.
Understood. Chelsea, thank you so much for keeping up with this story, this very sad story on the new year, and we know that you'll keep us updated with the latest.
Thank you.
All right, we're good. I'll add on the end later. I'm really honestly good at this. I'm usually good at doing it tape to live
Like
to
this
tape.
is going way